The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. 300 different alien races called it home. Each species had their own way of living, their own planets, and their own spot in the big family of space travelers. The Council made the rules. Everyone followed them. That was how things worked. Until humans said no. Commander Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of her warship, the Valiant. Her hands gripped the metal railing as she looked at the screens in front of her. 12 hours ago, everything had changed. The Vraxian aliens had attacked Colony 7, a peaceful human settlement far from Earth. 3,000 people were dead. Men, women, and children. All gone. The attack came without warning. There was no message first, no demands, no chance to talk. The Vraxian ships just appeared in the sky and started firing. Their weapons hit the colony from space. Cities turned into holes in the ground. Houses exploded with families still inside. A school full of children disappeared in a flash of light. The park where kids played every day became a crater. The Vraxians made sure everyone could see what they did. They sent the videos everywhere. They wanted the galaxy to know what happened when someone got in their way. Colony 7 had been built on land the Vraxians wanted, so they took it back, with fire and death. Lisa felt sick every time she thought about it. She had seen the videos. She wished she hadn't, but commanders had to know. They had to see the truth, no matter how bad it hurt. "Ma'am, we have a call coming in from the council chambers," said Lieutenant Jake Morrison. He was young, maybe 25, and his voice shook with anger he was trying to hide. "Put it on screen," Lisa said. The image that appeared showed Ambassador Krell. He was a Vraxian, one of the same race that had just killed 3,000 humans. He was tall, with a body like a giant insect. His many eyes looked at Lisa through the screen. She could not read his face. Humans still did not understand Vraxian expressions very well. "Commander Grant, the Council has looked at what happened at Colony 7. We are very sorry for the deaths," Krell said. Lisa felt her jaw tighten. "Sorry? 3,000 people are dead, Ambassador." "Yes, and the Council says this was wrong. But we must think about the big picture. The Vraxians say that Colony 7 was built on land that both sides claimed. They will pay money for the deaths. They want to talk and make a deal." Lisa felt like someone had poured ice water in her veins. "Talk? Make a deal?" "Yes. The Council thinks we can fix this problem by talking. We ask that Earth calls back all its military ships. Let us help both sides find an answer that works for everyone." The bridge went silent. Every person there stopped what they were doing and looked at their commander. Lisa felt their eyes on her. She thought about the 3,000 dead. She thought about the children who would never grow up, the parents who died protecting their kids, the families that were just gone, erased from existence. She thought about Earth's history, the times when bad people did terrible things and good people tried to make deals with them. It never worked. It never stopped the killing. It only made it worse. "Ambassador Krell," Lisa said. Her voice was cold and clear. "You can tell the Council something for me. You can tell them what humanity's answer is." She looked right at the ambassador's alien face. "Humans don't negotiate with murderers." She cut the signal. The screen went black. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Around her, the crew stood frozen. They knew what this meant. Those 5 words would change everything. On Earth, the message reached the government in minutes. President Daniel Hayes sat in a room deep under the White House. Around him sat generals, advisors, and cabinet members. They all watched the screens showing news from across the galaxy. "Mr. President, the Council is very angry," said Patricia Cole, the Secretary of State. "They want us to take back what Commander Grant said. They are talking about punishing us. No trade, no travel between our worlds. They might even kick us out of the Council." Daniel looked at the faces around the table. Some people looked scared. Others looked ready to fight. He pulled up pictures from Colony 7 on the big screen, the crater where a hospital used to be, the playground that was now just burned ground, the homes that were gone. "We are not taking it back," Daniel said quietly. Admiral Henry Blake leaned forward. "Sir, we need to be smart about this. The Vraxian fleet has 20 ships for every one of ours. If this turns into a war, we will lose." "Maybe," Daniel said. "But some things are worth losing for, Admiral. If we make a deal now, we tell every alien race out there that human lives are cheap, that you can kill us and then just pay some money and say sorry. That murder is okay if you are strong enough." "The Council has kept peace for 12,000 years, Patricia argued. "Their way works." "Their way let 3,000 innocent people get murdered," Daniel said, his voice getting louder. "Then they asked us to sit down with the killers and talk about it like it was a business deal. That is not peace. That is just letting the strong do whatever they want to the weak." He stood up and looked at everyone in the room. "We learned hard lessons on Earth. We tried being nice to evil people. We tried looking away when bad things happened. We tried making deals with people who saw talking as weakness. Every single time it led to more death, more pain, more innocent blood." Daniel pointed at the pictures from Colony 7. "Never again. That is what we promised ourselves after our darkest days. Never again would we stand by while innocent people died. Never again would we reward murderers by giving them what they want." He turned to Admiral Blake. "How long until our fleet is ready?" 3 days, sir. But, Mr. President, even with every ship we have— "I know the numbers, Admiral. Get the fleet ready anyway, and send a message to Commander Grant. Tell her that Earth supports what she said, all the way." Back on the Valiant, Lisa was already working with the other human ships in the area. The destroyer Defiant was there. So was the cruiser Liberty. 24 smaller ships joined them. They all moved to protect the refugee ships that were rescuing survivors from Colony 7. "Commander, the Vraxian fleet is calling us," Morrison said. "They say we have to back down and do what the Council says." "Do not answer them," Lisa ordered. "All ships, stay in position. If they want to get to those refugee ships, they will have to go through us first." Her second-in-command, Ryan Phillips, came to stand beside her. "Lisa, we have 12 ships. They have over 200. This is crazy." "I know," she said. "But those are our people on those refugee ships, Ryan. Families who saw their loved ones die, kids who lost their parents. If we run away now, what does that tell them? That humans abandon their own when things get hard?" She looked at her crew. She could see they were scared, but she could also see they were ready to fight. "I will not force anyone to stay. If you want to leave, I will let you. No punishment, no bad marks on your record. This is your choice." Nobody moved. Nobody left their station. "All right then," Lisa said with a small, hard smile. "Let us show these aliens what humans do when you push us too far." The Vraxian battle group commander, war leader Thrax, looked at his screens and could not believe what he was seeing. 12 tiny human ships stood between his massive fleet and the refugee vessels. It was almost funny. These primitive creatures thought they could stop him. "These humans are either very brave or very stupid." His tactical of the council chambers went crazy. 300 different alien species all tried to talk at once. Some were angry at humans. Others wanted to send their own military to stop a war. A few just sat quietly and watched. High Chancellor Verath tried to make everyone calm down. He was a being made of pure energy, trapped inside a crystal body. His voice boomed across the chamber, but nobody listened. The room was too loud, too chaotic. On Earth, President Daniel Hayes sat in the war room. Generals and government officials surrounded him. The screens on the walls showed news from all over the galaxy. Everyone was talking about what Commander Grant had said. "Mr. President, the Council wants us to say that Commander Grant was wrong," Patricia Cole said. "They are threatening us. They will stop all trade with Earth. They will not let our ships travel to other worlds. They might even kick us out of the council completely." Daniel looked at the people around the table. He saw worry on their faces. He also saw determination. He thought again about Colony 7, about the playground full of dead children, about the hospital that was bombed while doctors tried to save lives, about the school where his niece's friend had been teaching before she died. "The statement stands," he said quietly but firmly. Admiral Henry Blake leaned forward in his chair. "Sir, we need to face the facts. The Vraxian fleet is 20 times bigger than ours. If this becomes a real war, we cannot win." "Maybe not," Daniel replied. "But there are things worth losing for, Admiral. If we negotiate now, we tell every species in the galaxy that you can kill humans and get away with it. That human lives have a price. That murder is just business." "The Council has kept peace for 12,000 years, Patricia said. "Their system works." "Does it?" Daniel asked. "Their system let 3,000 innocent people get murdered. Then it asked us to sit down with the killers and talk about money and land. That is not peace, Patricia. That is just the strong doing whatever they want while the weak suffer." He stood up and walked to the display screen. He pulled up images from Earth's past. Wars, genocides, times when evil people did terrible things and others tried to make deals with them instead of stopping them. "Humanity spent hundreds of years learning this lesson the hard way," Daniel said. "We tried being nice to monsters. We tried pretending bad things were not happening. We tried negotiating with people who laughed at our weakness. And every single time it led to more killing, more suffering, more innocent people dying." He changed the screen back to Colony 7. "Never again. That is what we said after our darkest times. Never again would we watch while innocents died. Never again would we give murderers what they want just because we are scared." He looked at Admiral Blake. "How long until the fleet is ready to move?" 72 hours, sir. But, Mr. President, even if we use every ship we have, the math does not work in our favor." "I know the odds, Admiral. I have always known the odds. Prepare the fleet anyway, and send a message to Commander Grant. Tell her Earth stands with her, no matter what happens." Back on the Valiant, Lisa was coordinating with every human ship in the sector. The destroyer Defiant moved into position. The cruiser Liberty took her place in the formation. 24 smaller ships spread out in a defensive wall around the refugee vessels. "Commander, the Vraxian fleet is calling again," Morrison reported. "They say we must move, or they will open fire." "Ignore the call," Lisa ordered. "All ships, hold position. Those are our people on those refugee ships. If the Vraxians want them, they go through us." Ryan Phillips stood next to her. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. "Lisa, we have 12 combat ships. They have over 200. We cannot hold them off." "I know," she said. "But those ships carry families who watched their homes burn. Children who saw their parents die. Old people who lost everything they ever built. If we leave them now, what does that say about us? That humans run away when things get hard?" She turned to face her crew. Everyone on the bridge was looking at her. "I will not order anyone to die here. If you want to leave, request a transfer right now. I will approve it. No shame, no punishment. This has to be your choice." The bridge was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then, one by one, each crew member went back to their work. Their answer was clear. "Well then," Lisa said. She felt proud and terrified at the same time. "Let us show the galaxy what happens when you make humans angry." On the Vraxian flagship, war leader Thrax stared at his tactical display. The human ships had not moved. They just sat there, protecting those refugee vessels. It made no sense. They had to know they would lose. They had to know they would die. "Should we try talking to them again?" his tactical officer asked. "No," Thrax said. "Talking is done. They chose their path. Now they will learn what it costs to defy the Vraxian collective." He opened a channel to his fleet. "All ships, combat formation. target the human vessels. We will disable their lead ship first, show them what happens to those who stand against us." On the Valiant, alarms started screaming. The Vraxian ships were moving into attack positions. Their weapons were charging up. The battle was about to begin. "All crew, battle stations," Lisa announced over the ship's speakers. "This is not a drill. The Vraxians are preparing to fire. We stand our ground. We protect our people. For Earth, for Colony 7, for everyone who cannot fight for themselves." She looked at Morrison. "Send a message to the refugee ships. Tell them to run. Full speed away from here. We will buy them time." "Ma'am, they are asking if we need help," Morrison said. "Tell them no. Tell them to run and not look back. That is an order." The refugee ships began to move, their engines burning bright as they accelerated away from the battle zone. On the Valiant, every screen showed the Vraxian fleet getting closer. Their main weapons were almost fully charged. "How long until they can fire?" Lisa asked. 30 seconds, the tactical officer replied. "All ships, prepare for evasive maneuvers. On my mark, scatter pattern Delta. Make them work for every shot." The seconds ticked down. 20, 10, 5. "Mark!" Lisa shouted. The human ships broke formation just as the Vraxian cannons fired. Beams of pure energy cut through space where the ships had been moments before, but the humans were already moving, already dodging, already fighting back. "Return fire!" Lisa ordered. "All weapons, target their gun emplacements." Missiles launched from the human ships. Railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. The Vraxian point defense systems destroyed most of the weapons, but some got through. Explosions bloomed across Vraxian hulls. Sensors went dark. Gun turrets exploded. "They actually hit us," the Vraxian tactical officer said in shock. "Of course they did," Thrax growled. "They are desperate. All ships advance and destroy them." But as the Vraxian fleet moved forward, something strange happened. The human ships did not run away. They did not try to escape. Instead, they charged forward, diving between the big Vraxian vessels, firing at close range, acting like fighters instead of warships. On the Defiant, Captain Helen Carter smiled grimly as she guided her ship between two Vraxian cruisers. "They are used to fighting enemies who follow the rules, who keep their distance, who rely on shields and armor. They do not know how to fight humans who get in close and personal." She launched missiles at point-blank range into both Vraxian ships before accelerating away. The explosions tore into the enemy vessels. One lost power. The other started spinning out of control. "Ma'am, the Vraxians are trying to surround us," her tactical officer warned. "Then we go straight through them," Helen decided. Every news station in the galaxy was showing the battle. Billions of aliens across hundreds of worlds watched as 12 human ships fought against a massive Vraxian fleet. They should have been destroyed in minutes, but they were still fighting, still holding their ground. In the council chambers, the arguing had reached a breaking point. Everyone was yelling at everyone else. The chamber was chaos. "This is insane!" High Chancellor Verath shouted, trying to be heard over the noise. "The humans must stop fighting before this gets worse." But then Ambassador Celine stood up. She was from the Delphian Commonwealth, one of the few alien species that had been kind to humans. Her voice was calm but firm. "With respect, Chancellor, maybe we should ask ourselves why the humans are willing to die fighting impossible odds." "Because they are crazy and violent," a Vraxian delegate shouted back. "Or," Celine said calmly, "because they value something more than staying alive. Tell me, delegates, when was the last time any of our species was willing to die for what was right instead of for land or money? When did any of us refuse to negotiate, refuse to compromise, even when our own people were murdered?" The chamber went quiet. Nobody had an answer. "The humans are showing us something we forgot a long time ago," Celine continued. "That some lines cannot be crossed. That some crimes are too terrible to just talk about and make deals. That there are things worse than dying, like living as cowards who give up their beliefs when tested. Nice speech, the Vraxian delegate sneered. But speeches will not save them from our fleet. On the bridge of the Valiant, Lisa watched 2 more human ships go dark on her display. The Liberty was badly damaged and losing air. The destroyer Courage had been hit in the engine room and was evacuating her crew to escape pods. They had held for 3 hours. Against all the odds, against overwhelming firepower, they had protected the refugee ships. They had made the Vraxians pay for every inch of space. But they could not hold forever. They were running out of ships, running out of ammunition, running out of time. "Commander, we have an incoming transmission," Morrison said. His voice was strange, like he could not believe what he was seeing. "From the Vraxians?" Lisa asked. "No, ma'am. From everyone. The Delphian fleet just appeared out of nowhere. And the Antarian warships, too. I am reading ships from 40 different species. They are all moving between us and the Vraxian fleet." Lisa stared at the tactical display. She could not believe her eyes. Ships from all across the galaxy were appearing, species that had never helped humans before, species that had barely even talked to humans. They were all forming a defensive line in front of the battered human fleet. The communication channel opened. Ambassador Celine's voice filled the bridge. "Commander Grant, the Delphian Commonwealth stands with humanity. We are not alone. We watched your fight. We watched you refuse to back down. And we are ashamed. Ashamed that it took a species barely 100 years in space to remind us what honor really means." One by one, other voices joined in. Antarians, Terrellians. Species humanity had only met once or twice were pledging their support, promising to protect the human ships. War Leader Thrax stared at his screens in disbelief. What had been 12 human ships was now a fleet of hundreds, dozens of different species, all standing together. His communication panel lit up with urgent messages from Vraxian High Command. The voice that came through was not happy. "Stand down immediately," came the order. "Do not fire on the Allied fleet. Return to base at once." Thrax wanted to argue, wanted to finish what he started, but he was not stupid. He could not fight half the galaxy. "All ships, cease fire. We are withdrawing." The Vraxian fleet began to pull back, slowly at first, then faster. Within an hour, they were gone. On the Valiant, the crew erupted in cheers. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had won. Not because they were stronger, but because they stood for something. And the galaxy had noticed. Back on Earth, President Daniel Hayes watched the scene with quiet amazement. Secretary Patricia Cole stood next to him. Tears ran down her face. "They came," she whispered. "They actually came to help us." "We showed them it was possible to say no," Daniel replied. Sometimes that is all it takes. One voice willing to stand up and say this is wrong. And suddenly others find their courage too. The crisis was not over. There would be politics to deal with, trials, debates, changes to how the council worked. But in that moment, as hundreds of ships from across the galaxy stood together, something important had changed. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. In the days that followed, the news could not stop talking about the battle. They called it the Stand at Colony 7. Artists made paintings of the 12 human ships holding the line. Children across 100 worlds played games pretending to be the brave humans who refused to run. The Vraxian collective tried to defend their actions. They said Colony 7 was built on their land. They said humans were the aggressors. But nobody believed them anymore. The videos of the attack were everywhere. Everyone had seen the proof. The council called an emergency session. For the first time in its 12,000-year history, they voted to remove a species from membership. The Vraxians were expelled. Their leaders would face trial for war crimes. But more importantly, the council itself began to change. Ambassador Celine proposed something radical, a new charter, a set of rights that could never be negotiated away, rules that every species had to follow, no matter how powerful they were. For too long we have maintained peace through endless compromise, Selene told the assembled delegates. We told ourselves this was wisdom, that talking was always better than fighting, but the humans showed us the truth. Endless compromise in the face of evil is not wisdom. It is cowardice wearing a nice suit. She pulled up images from Colony 7, the destroyed city, the dead children, the families that were gone forever. Some crimes cannot be negotiated. Some acts are so terrible that to sit down and make deals with those who commit them is to become part of the crime. The humans understood this. They learned it through their own bloody history, and they tried to teach us. The vote on the new charter was close at first. Many species were afraid of change, afraid of what it might mean for them. But as the debate continued, more and more delegates stood up to support it. A young delegate from a small species spoke up. "My people have no military. We rely on the council to protect us. But what good is that protection if it means sitting down with those who would kill us?" The humans were willing to die to protect their people. They showed us what real strength looks like. I vote yes. One by one, other small species joined in, then medium-sized ones. Finally, even some of the powerful species voted to support the charter. The final vote was almost unanimous. Only a handful of species voted against it. The council would be reformed. There would be rules that could not be broken, rights that could not be negotiated away. And it all started because 12 human ships refused to back down. Commander Lisa Grant was promoted. She was no longer just a military officer. She became Ambassador Grant, representing humanity in the reformed council. It was not a job she wanted, but it was one she accepted. On her first day in the council chambers, delegates from across the galaxy came to speak with her. They thanked her. They told her she had changed everything. She smiled and nodded, but inside she felt the weight of it all. That night, she returned to her quarters and recorded a message to send back to Earth. "We did not set out to change the galaxy. We just wanted to protect our people, to stand up for what was right. But somehow that was enough. The galaxy was waiting for someone to show them it was okay to say no, to refuse to compromise with evil, to draw a line and defend it no matter the cost." She paused, thinking about the crew members she had lost, the ships that had been destroyed, the price they paid for their principles. 3 months had passed since the battle. The council chambers looked different now. The Vraxian collective was gone, expelled and facing justice for their crimes. But more than that, the whole council had changed from the inside. Ambassador Selene stood before the assembled delegates. Representatives from 300 species filled the chamber. This was the most important vote in 12,000 years of galactic history. "For 12 millennia we kept peace through compromise," Selene began. "Through negotiation, through always finding the middle ground. We told ourselves this was the smart way, the civilized way." She paused and looked around the chamber. "But the humans showed us that endless compromise when facing evil is not smart. It is just cowardice dressed up in fancy words." Lisa Grant sat in the gallery, watching. She was no longer wearing her military uniform. Now she wore the formal clothes of humanity's council representative. Next to her sat President Daniel Hayes, who had come from Earth to see this historic moment. "We propose the Covenant of Sentient Rights," Selene continued. "These rights will be absolute. No negotiation, no compromise, no political games can override them. And the most important right is this: no species shall commit genocide. Those who do will face justice, not negotiation tables." The chamber was silent. This was it, the moment that would define the future of the galaxy. "All those in favor," Verath called out. Lights began appearing on the voting board. One by one, species cast their votes. Green for yes, red for no. The board filled with color. When the counting finished, the result was clear. 298 votes for yes, 2 votes against. The covenant passed. 300 species, representing trillions of beings across the galaxy, had agreed. Not because anyone forced them, but because 12 human ships had shown them what standing for your principles looked like. After the vote, ambassadors from dozens of species came to speak with Lisa and Daniel. They shook hands in the human way, even though many of them did not have hands. They thanked humanity for what they had done. A small bird-like alien approached Lisa. "Ambassador Grant, I represent the Kestari people. We are a small species. We have no military, no powerful weapons. For thousands of years we relied on the Council to protect us, but we always knew deep down that if someone strong decided to hurt us, the Council would just ask us to compromise." The alien's feathers ruffled with emotion. "You changed that. Now there are rules that even the strong must follow. Our children will grow up safer because of what you did. Thank you." Lisa felt a lump in her throat. "We just did what we thought was right." "That is exactly why it mattered," the alien replied. Later, in a private room, Ambassador Celine sat down with Lisa and Daniel. The three of them were alone, away from the crowds and cameras. "You know, Commander Grant," Celine said, using Lisa's old military title, "many of us were terrified when humanity joined the Council. Your species has such a violent history, so many wars on your own planet, so much death." Lisa nodded slowly. "We do. We are not proud of it. But that is exactly why you understood something we did not," Selene continued. "You knew the cost of appeasing evil. You had learned through terrible experience that some things cannot be negotiated with. They can only be stopped." She looked out the window at the stars. "We had peace, Commander. But it was empty peace. Peace built on looking away when it was convenient. On sacrificing the weak to keep the strong happy. You gave us something better. You gave us justice." Daniel spoke up. "It came at a cost. 3,000 dead at Colony 7, ships destroyed in the battle, families torn apart." "Yes," Celine agreed. "Real change always costs something. The question is whether the price is worth paying. I think history will say it was." Back on Earth, a memorial had been built where Colony 7 once stood. 3,000 trees, one for each person who died. In the center was a simple monument made of black stone. The inscription read, "They asked us to negotiate. We chose to remember." President Hayes stood before the memorial with a small group of survivors. Children who had lost parents, parents who had lost children, people who had lost everything but were slowly rebuilding their lives. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, held her grandmother's hand. "Why did they attack us?" she asked. The grandmother looked at the president, not sure how to answer. Daniel knelt down to be at the girl's eye level. "Because they wanted what we had, and they did not think anyone would stop them." "But people did stop them," the girl said. "The ships came to help us." "Yes, they did. Because we showed them it was the right thing to do." The girl thought about this. "Are the bad aliens going to be punished?" "Yes," Daniel said firmly. "They will face justice for what they did." "Good," the girl said simply. Then she went back to looking at the trees. Daniel stood up, feeling old and tired. But he also felt something else. Hope. The galaxy had changed. Not completely, not perfectly. But it had taken a step in the right direction. On the frontier of human space, the Valiant and her sister ships maintained their patrol. The refugee ships had all reached safety. The survivors were settling into new homes on other human colonies. Life was slowly returning to normal. But things were different now. Human ships no longer traveled alone through dangerous space. There were always allies nearby. Delphian vessels, Antarian cruisers, Dozens of species had formed mutual defense pacts with humanity. Commander Ryan Phillips, now captain of his own ship, sent a message to Lisa. "The galaxy feels different now, safer. Is that real, or am I just imagining it?" Lisa sent back her reply. "It is real. We proved that standing together is stronger than standing alone, that doing what is right matters more than doing what is easy. The galaxy is not perfect. There are still bad people out there, still species that will try to hurt others. But now there are consequences. Now there are rules that even the powerful must follow." She paused before adding, "That is worth everything we went through." In the council chambers, the first trial began. Vraxian leaders were brought before a special court. The charges were simple: genocide, murder of civilians, war crimes. The evidence was overwhelming. The videos of the attack, testimony from survivors. Records from Vraxian military computers showing the attack was planned weeks in advance. The lead prosecutor was a human lawyer named Victor Kane. He stood before the court and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "The defense will argue that this was a territorial dispute, that Colony 7 was built on contested land, that the Vraxians had a right to defend their claim." He paused and looked at the Vraxian leaders sitting in the defendant's area. "But there is no disputed territory worth 3,000 innocent lives, no land claim that justifies bombing hospitals and schools, no political disagreement that makes murdering children acceptable." He pulled up images from Colony 7 on the courtroom screens. The same images that had shocked the galaxy months before. These people were not soldiers. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, children. They had no weapons, no defenses. They were just trying to live their lives. The trial lasted 3 weeks. In the end, the verdict was unanimous: guilty on all charges. The Vraxian leaders were sentenced to life imprisonment. Their military was reduced. Their territory was placed under council supervision. It was the first time in council history that powerful leaders faced real consequences for their crimes. The news spread across the galaxy. Some species celebrated, others worried about what it meant for them. But everyone understood that something fundamental had changed. The strong could no longer do whatever they wanted to the weak. Justice was no longer just a word, and it all started because one human commander refused to compromise with murderers. Lisa Grant recorded her final thoughts on the whole experience. She knew this recording would be studied by historians for generations. She wanted to get it right. "We did not set out to change the galaxy. We just wanted justice for our dead. 1 year had passed since the stand at Colony 7. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody expected. The council was different. The rules were different. The whole balance of power had shifted." Ambassador Lisa Grant walked through the rebuilt Colony 7. It was not the same as before. The old buildings were gone, replaced by new structures. But people lived here again. Children played in the parks. Families had made new homes. Life had returned to this place of death. A young boy ran up to her. He was maybe 10 years old, wearing a school uniform. "Are you really Commander Grant, the one from the battle?" Lisa smiled. "I am. Though I am an ambassador now, not a commander." "My teacher says you saved the galaxy," the boy said with wide eyes. "I did not save the galaxy," Lisa corrected gently. "I just did what was right. A lot of people did what was right. That is what saved the galaxy." The boy thought about this. "My parents died in the attack. I live with my uncle now." Lisa felt her heart break a little. "I am so sorry." "It is okay," the boy said, trying to sound brave. "My uncle says they died free, that nobody pushed us around and got away with it. He says that matters." "Your uncle is right," Lisa said softly. "It matters very much." The boy ran off to join his friends. Lisa watched him go, hoping he would have a better future than the past he had lived through. In the council chambers, Ambassador Celine was giving a speech to commemorate the anniversary. Lisa sat in the gallery listening. 1 year ago, 12 human ships taught us what we had forgotten, Celine said. That there are things worth fighting for, worth dying for. That peace without justice is not real peace. It is just silence while the strong prey on the weak. She gestured to the new charter hanging on the chamber wall. The covenant of sentient rights exists because humanity refused to compromise. 300 species now live under rules that protect the innocent, rules that cannot be negotiated away by the powerful. Celine looked directly at Lisa. We owe humanity a debt we can never fully repay. They paid in blood for the lesson they taught us. 3,000 lives at Colony 7, crews lost in the battle, families torn apart. They paid the price so the rest of us could have justice. After the speech, Lisa met with other human representatives. Earth now had a much larger presence in the council, not because of military power, but because other species trusted humans to stand up for what was right. How does it feel? Asked Ambassador Kevin Brooks, who represented the outer colonies. Being the moral compass of the galaxy? Lisa laughed bitterly. Terrifying. We are not perfect. We have our own dark history, our own crimes. Sometimes I worry we will let everyone down. That worry is exactly why you will not, Kevin replied. Species that think they are always right, that they have all the answers, those are the dangerous ones. We know we can make mistakes. That keeps us honest. On Earth, President Daniel Hayes was finishing his term. In a few months, there would be elections. Someone new would take his place. But before he left office, he wanted to visit the memorial at Colony 7 one more time. He stood before the 3,000 trees and thought about the decision he made that day. To support Commander Grant's statement, to refuse negotiation, to risk everything for principle. Was it worth it? Asked Patricia Cole, who had remained his Secretary of State through everything. Yes, Daniel said without hesitation. We lost 3,000 people at Colony 7. But if we had backed down, how many more would have died? How many other colonies would have been attacked because species learned they could kill humans and get away with it? He touched one of the trees, feeling the rough bark under his hand. Every one of these trees represents a person, a life, a future that was stolen. But their deaths were not meaningless. They changed the galaxy, made it safer for billions of people across hundreds of worlds. That does not bring them back, Patricia said quietly. No, Daniel agreed. Nothing can bring them back. All we can do is make sure their sacrifice meant something. And it did. In deep space, the Valiant was on patrol. Captain Ryan Phillips commanded her now. Lisa had moved on to diplomatic work, but the ship still served humanity, still protected the innocent. Captain, we are receiving a distress signal, the communications officer reported. It is from a Tyrellian cargo ship. They are under attack by pirates. How far? Ryan asked. 20 minutes at full speed. Ryan did not hesitate. Set course. Battle stations. Send a message to the pirates. Tell them to break off their attack or face the consequences. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. This was what the Valiant did now, protected those who could not protect themselves. It did not matter if they were human or alien. Right was right. When the Valiant arrived, the pirates took one look at the human warship and ran. The Tyrellian captain sent a grateful message. Thank you, Valiant. You saved our lives. That is what we do, Ryan replied simply. Stay safe out there. As the Valiant resumed her patrol, Ryan thought about how much had changed. Human ships were welcomed everywhere now, respected, trusted, not because of military might, but because everyone knew humans would stand up for what was right. That was Lisa Grant's legacy. That was what the stand at Colony 7 had given them. Ambassador Grant was preparing for another council session when she received a message from the Kistari delegate. The small bird-like aliens wanted to thank humanity again. Ambassador Grant, I wanted you to know that our population is growing for the first time in 1,000 years, the message said. For so long we were afraid to have children, afraid of what might happen to them in a galaxy where the strong did whatever they wanted. But now we have hope. Now we believe our children will be safe. Thank you for giving us that. Lisa read the message 3 times. This was what it was all about. Not politics, not power. Just giving people hope that tomorrow could be better than today. She sent back a simple reply. Raise your children well. Teach them that standing up for what is right is always worth it. That is the best thanks you can give us. The council session that day dealt with a new crisis. A species called the Korvath was threatening its neighbors. They had not attacked yet, but the threats were serious. In the old days, the council would have tried to negotiate, find a compromise, give the Korvath something to make them happy. But not anymore. High Chancellor Verath spoke firmly. The council will not tolerate threats of violence. The covenant of sentient rights is clear. All species have the right to live without fear of attack. The Korvath will cease their threats immediately or face sanctions. The Korvath delegate stood up, angry. You cannot tell us what to do. We are a sovereign species. Yes, you are, Verath agreed. And as a sovereign species, you agreed to follow council rules when you joined. Those rules now include respecting the rights of others. Follow them or leave the council. The Korvath delegate looked around the chamber. He saw no support, no allies willing to defend him. A year ago, some species might have argued for negotiation, but not now. The galaxy had learned its lesson. We will comply, the delegate said stiffly before sitting down. Lisa watched the exchange with satisfaction. The council had teeth now. The covenant was not just words on paper. It was real law with real consequences. That night, Lisa recorded her final thoughts on the whole experience. She knew this might be the last time she spoke about it formally. It was time to let history judge what happened. People ask me if I was scared during the battle, she began. Of course I was. I was terrified. We all were. We knew the odds. We knew we would probably die. She paused, remembering that day. The alarms, the explosions, the moment when other species arrived to help. But fear does not mean you are wrong. Sometimes the right thing to do is also the scary thing to do. That is when courage matters most. Not when you are fearless, but when you are afraid and you do it anyway. Lisa looked directly at the camera. Humans don't negotiate with murderers. 5 simple words that changed everything. Not because they were clever or poetic, but because they drew a line. They said this far and no further. They said some things are not for sale. She thought about the 3,000 dead. The crews lost in battle. The price paid for principle. Would I do it again, knowing what it would cost? Yes, without hesitation. Because the alternative was teaching the galaxy that human lives were cheap, that you could kill us and just pay some money and say sorry. That murder was just another negotiating point. Lisa leaned forward. We are not perfect. Humanity has done terrible things in our history. We have been the murderers ourselves. But we learned from that. We learned that might does not make right, that the strong have a duty to protect the weak, not exploit them. That justice matters more than convenience. She finished the recording with her final thoughts. The galaxy is better now than it was a year ago. Not perfect. There are still bad people out there. Still species that will hurt others if given the chance. But now there are rules. Now there are consequences. Now the weak have protection and the innocent have justice. Lisa turned off the camera and sat back. She thought about the boy at Colony 7, the one whose parents had died. He would grow up in a galaxy where species faced punishment for such crimes, where the council stood for something beyond just maintaining power. That was worth everything they had gone through. That was the legacy of the stand at Colony 7. In schools across the galaxy, children learned about the battle. They studied why it happened, what it meant, how 12 ships changed the course of history. Teachers told them about Commander Grant's words, about the human refusal to compromise with evil, about the price paid for justice, and the children learned the most important lesson of all, that doing what is right is not always easy. It is not always safe. It does not always work out well, but it is always worth doing, because that is what separates civilization from chaos, justice from tyranny, hope from despair. The galaxy would never forget what happened at Colony 7. How 3,000 innocent people died. How 12 ships refused to back down. How 5 words changed everything. Humans don't negotiate with murderers. It was a simple statement, a clear line, an absolute principle. And it was exactly what the galaxy needed to hear. He wanted the people who killed 3,000 innocent humans to face consequences, not sit down at a negotiation table. She looked at the camera, her face serious. 5 words changed everything. Humans don't negotiate with murderers. Such simple words. But they carried the weight of our entire history. Every lesson we learned the hard way on Earth, every time we tried to appease evil and watched it grow stronger, every innocent person who died because good people chose convenience over courage. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The galaxy had forgotten that some things are not negotiable, that justice matters, that the lives of the innocent are sacred. We reminded them, not with speeches or philosophy, but with action. 12 ships willing to die to protect refugees. That meant more than any words could. The recording ended. Lisa sat back in her chair and thought about everything that had happened. The battle, the fear, the moment when other species arrived to help, the changes that followed. It had been worth it. Every terrifying second, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt. Because the galaxy was better now than it was before. And that was all that mattered. I hope we never forget what this cost us. The people who died at Colony 7. The crews who fought, knowing they might not survive. They paid the price for change, for justice, for a galaxy that is a little bit better than it was before. She ended the recording and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vraxian fleet was returning home in shame. The refugee ships were reaching safe ports, and the galaxy was beginning to understand that some things were worth fighting for. The age of endless compromise was ending. A new age was beginning, an age where justice mattered more than convenience, where right and wrong were not just words but principles to live by. And it all started with 5 simple words. Humans don't negotiate with murderers. L power to front shields. We are going in. The Defiant aimed right at the Vraxian formation and accelerated. At the last second, she rolled her ship and fired every gun she had at the command bridge of a Vraxian dreadnought. Then she was past, leaving chaos behind her. All across the battle, human ships fought like nothing the Vraxians had ever seen. This was not the clean, organized combat they knew from council wars. This was brutal, desperate, mean, and humanity was teaching the galaxy a lesson. Just because you are smaller does not mean you are weaker. The battle raged on. The human ships took damage. The Liberty lost half her weapons. The Courage was leaking air from a hull breach. But they kept fighting. They kept protecting those refugee ships that were getting farther and farther away. Lisa watched her screens and knew they could not last much longer, but every second they held was another second for innocent people to escape, another second for the refugees to reach safety. "Ma'am, incoming message," Morrison said. "It is not from the Vraxians." "Who then?" Lisa asked. Morrison's face showed shock. "Ma'am, you need to see this," Pfizer said. "Stupid," Thrax decided. "They do not understand real power. We destroyed their colony easily. These ships will be even easier." He opened a communication line to the human ships. "This is War Leader Thrax of the Vraxian Collective. You are breaking council rules. Back down now, or we will destroy you. The human commander answered quickly. This is Commander Lisa Grant of the Earth Defense Ship Valiant. We do not take orders from murderers. You want these refugees? Come and take them. Thrax felt anger burn through him. You know you cannot win? Probably not, Grant said, but you will remember us. The line went dead. Thrax turned to his weapons officer. His decision was made. These humans needed to learn their place in the galaxy, and he would teach them.